Most riders think winter is something you just grit your way through. But the truth is, winter doesn't beat the rider. It beats the wrong motorcycle. And here's the part nobody talks about. There's one style of bike that handles frost, slush, and busted pavement better than anything else on the road. And most riders never even look at it. Dealers don't push it. Magazines don't hype it. But once you see the engineering, you'll understand exactly why it's the best winter machine out there. Stay with me to the end, because the bike that wins winter is probably not the one you think. Winter riding. Misconceptions. Riders. Still believe. Winter riding has a way of exposing truths that many riders prefer to ignore. For years, the common belief has been that cold weather riding is mostly a test of grit, as if toughness alone could warm hands, steady the mind, and keep control sharp when the temperature drops. The old saying about pushing through the cold may have been passed down with pride, but the reality is more complicated. The discomfort riders feel is not simply a matter of endurance or stubbornness. It comes from forces that do not care how long someone has been on the road or how many miles they have logged. Confidence does not change the way cold interacts with the body, and it does not slow the rate at which heat is pulled away. A rider might blame their jacket, their gloves, or even their fading tolerance for cold, but the real issue usually runs deeper. The moment the seasons shift, the environment begins to work against every exposed surface. The air grows denser, the humidity changes, and the rider's natural insulation becomes less effective. Pride makes many shrug this off, yet physics pays no attention to pride. The cold feels harsher, not because riders have softened over the years, but because winter itself becomes a different kind of opponent. Understanding this truth opens the door to smarter decisions on the road. And as soon as a rider sees the cold for what it actually is, the next question becomes obvious. If toughness is not the key, then what is the real force driving that sharp winter bite? Cold season riding carries a deeper layer most riders rarely discuss, and that layer begins with the air itself. Wind-chill physics. Explained the rider way. Cold air does not sit still, and once it moves, its behavior changes radically. At the simplest level, moving airstrips heat away from any warm surface it touches. The faster the air travels, the more aggressively it pulls that heat away. This is not a matter of comfort or perception. It is a physical exchange happening molecule by molecule. Warm air clusters closer to the skin or fabric, forming a thin protective layer. The moment moving air hits that layer, it tears it away and replaces it with colder air that has not absorbed any warmth. That exchange repeats continuously, and the process accelerates the faster the surrounding air moves. This is why a calm 30-degree afternoon feels different from that same temperature when air is rushing past. The moving air multiplies the cooling effect, forcing heat from the body at a far higher rate than the raw temperature suggests. Engineers describe this as forced convection, but riders simply feel it as a sting that grows sharper with speed. The surrounding temperature stays the same, yet the body experiences something colder because heat is being removed faster than it can be replenished. Moisture also plays a role. The drier the air becomes, the more efficiently it carries heat away. Winter air is almost always dry, which makes this cycle even faster and more relentless. Riders often underestimate this because the number on a thermometer seems straightforward. But cold is not just temperature, it is the speed of heat loss. Once this dynamic is understood, the next question becomes clear. If moving air can transform a mild day into something far harsher, then the way a motorcycle interacts with that air must have an enormous impact. And that brings us to the shape of the machine itself. If insights like this help you ride smarter through the cold months, make sure to like the video and subscribe. Share your thoughts below so other riders can learn from real experience. How motorcycle body shape dictates cold exposure. Different motorcycles carve the air in different ways, and that shaping plays a massive role in how winter riding feels. A fully exposed machine channels the atmosphere directly onto the rider's chest, arms, and legs. With nothing to divert the flow, the cold rushes in uninterrupted, making every mile feel sharper. Riders who are used to stripped-down bikes know this sensation well. Their machines feel honest and open, but in winter they leave the body to face every ounce of the season's force. A touring machine behaves differently. Fairings, shields, and wide front profiles change the flow of air long before it reaches the rider. The machine splits the wind, sending some of it upward and some of it outward. The effect is not perfect, but it reduces the cold's impact by limiting how much air makes direct contact with the rider's core. Even subtle design choices, such as how the front cowl wraps around the sides or how the tank shape angles toward the seat, influence how cold air collects or disperses. Sport machines sit somewhere in the middle. They cut cleanly through the air, but often expose the shoulders and arms more than riders realize. When temperatures drop, that little bit of extra exposure becomes a constant drain on warmth and focus. Understanding this variety explains why two riders in identical weather can have completely different experiences. The motorcycle's silhouette becomes the first line of defense or the first point of failure. And once a rider grasps how the machine sculpts the air around them, another question emerges. If shape matters this much, what kind of design gives the most control over winter conditions? With different motorcycle styles exposing riders in different ways, the real advantage of a specific stance starts to reveal itself. Winter riding gets easier when your gear actually works. Everything I use, heated gloves, base layers, shields, and trusted cold weather accessories, is in the description. Why dual sport geometry quietly dominates winter roads? Dual sport machines approach winter from another angle entirely. Their structure is built around leverage and adaptability, and that geometry becomes crucial when conditions turn unpredictable. Long travel suspension allows the wheels to maintain contact when surfaces grow uneven or partially frozen. A narrow center section reduces resistance when moving through ruts or soft patches left behind by melting snow. The upright stance gives the rider leverage over the bars, allowing quick corrections without fighting the weight of the machine. The steering geometry also plays a part. These machines are designed to remain stable at lower speeds while still responding quickly to input. That balance becomes invaluable on winter surfaces where traction can change from one moment to the next. The layout encourages smooth adjustments instead of harsh reactions, which keeps the machine composed even when the road beneath it is not. This combination of height, leverage, suspension range, and centered mass gives dual sport designs a quiet advantage in winter. They were not created specifically for cold conditions, yet their traits line up almost perfectly with what winter roads demand. The geometry supports control, and in winter, control is everything. With this foundation in place, the picture becomes clearer. Some machines simply manage winter better because they were built to handle uncertainty. Understanding geometric confidence on winter roads opens the door to examining the machine built to harness it completely. Chassis balance. A motorcycle's frame tells you almost everything about how it will behave when the weather turns unpredictable. And the Triumph Tiger 900 starts with a structure designed for calm, predictable reactions. Its frame places the bulk of its mass in a tight, centralized zone, which helps the machine settle instead of sway when the surface beneath it changes. Winter roads rarely offer consistency. Frozen patches, scattered gravel, and uneven surfaces can force a bike into subtle shifts that grow into bigger corrections. The Tiger 900 manages those shifts by keeping its weight where the rider can influence it without a struggle. Steering leverage shapes how a machine reacts on rough winter ground. Wide bars and a clear relation to the steering axis give the rider mechanical advantage, letting small inputs travel cleanly through the frame without delay. That precision matters when surfaces shift unexpectedly. Balanced weight distribution adds another layer of stability. When both wheels carry a predictable share of load, slips stay manageable instead of escalating. Uneven bikes exaggerate instability, but an even, grounded stance keeps the machine composed across uncertain winter conditions, where control depends on subtle, steady feedback. Understanding this foundation prepares the way for the next layer of winter performance. Once the chassis establishes stability, the machine's shape and rider interface determine how air interacts with the person guiding it. That brings us to how the Tiger 900 shields its rider from the cold. Comfort engineering. Comfort in cold weather is not just about warmth. It is about how effectively a motorcycle shapes the air before it reaches the rider. And the Triumph Tiger 900 uses a series of subtle design choices to reduce the strain that cold air can impose. The windshield angle works with the front profile to lift the airflow, instead of allowing it to impact the rider directly. This does not eliminate all exposure, but it changes the character of the wind. Instead of a hard, direct blast, the air is softened and redirected. That difference can turn a harsh winter stretch into something far more manageable. The cockpit layout shapes how air moves around the rider. The tapered tank, bar reach, and narrow midsection reduce the pockets where cold air collects, cutting down turbulence around the torso and slowing fatigue. Seat height adds another layer of control by positioning the rider so airflow passes cleanly rather than striking the chest. This subtle alignment helps maintain comfort and focus throughout a winter ride. Once these shaping elements are understood, the next question becomes how the machine accepts additional structural components. And that leads directly into the Tiger 900's modular build, which gives riders a unique advantage when tailoring a machine for cold season use. Adaptability. A well-designed motorcycle does more than ride well straight from the factory. It allows the rider to build on its foundation without fighting the frame, and the Triumph Tiger 900 excels in this regard. Its modular structure includes factory tabs that accept guards, rails, and protective components with precise alignment. These attachment points are placed in logical positions that match the stresses the frame is designed to handle. When a rider adds structural pieces, the machine maintains its integrity instead of bending under incompatible forces. Luggage rails mount to reinforced points that naturally carry load, preventing flex and keeping the machine balanced when extra weight is added. Winter setups stay secure without improvisation, because the frame is designed to accept purpose-built hardware. Electronics routing follows the same logic, with protected paths that avoid flex and debris, allowing added components to draw power cleanly without disrupting core systems. Once a rider sees how cleanly the Tiger 900 accepts structural additions, the groundwork becomes clear. A winter-ready machine is not only about stability or airflow, it also requires an understanding of how the materials beneath the tires respond to cold. And that takes us directly into the science of rubber itself, tire chemistry, and cold rubber behavior. Rubber behaves differently in cold temperatures because its molecular structure changes as heat leaves the compound. When the temperature drops, the molecules inside the rubber move less freely. This reduction in mobility causes the tire to stiffen, and a stiffer tire has a smaller contact patch and less ability to conform to the surface beneath it. The grip that feels dependable in warm conditions can diminish quickly once the compound loses its flexibility. Different rubber blends react uniquely to cold. Harder compounds grow even stiffer, while softer ones keep some flexibility but still lose adaptability. Adventure mixtures balance durability with pliability, giving them a broader functional range, even when temperatures drop. Cold also slows a tire's ability to recover from small slips. Flexible rubber rebounds quickly, while stiff rubber lingers and break away. Knowing this behavior matters because, in winter, the tire remains the sole connection between the machine and the ground. With these principles in mind, the relationship between tire composition and winter performance becomes clearer. With the science of rubber laid out, The conversation shifts from machine behavior to the rider's fight against winter itself. How the body loses heat and how to prevent it. Cold weather riding begins with understanding how the body fights to stay warm. Heat escapes through conduction, convection, and evaporation. And each one becomes more aggressive as temperatures drop. Conduction pulls warmth away when the body touches cold surfaces, while convection removes heat as surrounding air moves and replaces the thin layer of warmth that naturally forms around the skin. Evaporation adds another layer of heat loss when sweat or moisture leaves the body, taking energy with it. These three forces work at the same time, and once winter sets in, they operate faster than most riders realize. Layering slows heat loss by creating a system of protection, a moisture-wicking base layer, an insulating mid-layer, and an outer layer that blocks cold air. Together, they form a buffer that reduces energy drain and preserves focus. Materials matter as much as thickness. Insulation that compresses or fabrics that hold moisture weaken the system. Balanced layers maintain core stability, prevent fatigue, and support clear concentration. Once a rider understands how the entire body manages heat, attention naturally shifts to the part most vulnerable to cold. That leads directly into the hands, where winter creates its most immediate threat to control. Dexterity, grip control, and winter technique. Hands lose function faster than nearly any other part of the body, because circulation limits how much warm blood reaches the fingers. When temperatures fall, the body prioritizes the core and reduces blood flow to the extremities. Fingers stiffen, reaction time slows, and the ability to feel small inputs through the controls diminishes. Even a slight loss of dexterity can make throttle adjustments less precise or cause hesitation on the brake lever. Winter riding magnifies these issues because every moment demands control that is both smooth and deliberate. Cold weakens grip strength by stiffening tendons and slowing muscle response, making fine control harder and increasing tension through the hands, wrists, and shoulders. That strain reduces awareness and encourages overcorrection. Heated gloves help maintain finger flexibility, while hand guards block direct airflow. Both methods slow dexterity loss, preserving smoother inputs and steadier reactions, without forcing the rider to grip harder than necessary. When control remains consistent, winter riding becomes far less demanding. But cold hands are not the only problem that appears during colder months. The next challenge shows up where riders least want it, on the inside of their helmet, where visibility can change in an instant. If you value clear, experience-driven breakdowns like this, go ahead and subscribe so you never miss the next deep dive. Every new video builds on lessons riders have earned the hard way, and staying connected keeps you ahead of whatever the season brings. Visibility and fog. Fogging begins with a simple temperature imbalance. Warm air holds more moisture, and the rider's breath delivers a steady stream of warm, humid air inside the helmet. When that moisture reaches a surface colder than the surrounding air, it condenses into tiny droplets. A helmet visor cools quickly during winter because the outside temperature creates a stark difference between the inner and outer surfaces. Once that difference becomes large enough, condensation forms almost immediately. This is why a visor can fog the moment a rider exhales, even at low speeds. Airflow inside a helmet shapes fogging. Warm, stagnant air near the visor traps humidity and encourages condensation, while vents that sweep cold air behind the visor reduce the temperature gap and slow fog buildup. Breath direction matters too. When exhaled air rises toward the visor, moisture meets the coldest surface. Change that pathway, and fog decreases. Fog is never random. It forms when humidity hits a chilled surface without enough airflow to clear it. With visibility addressed, the next factor in winter survival lies beneath the wheels. Road conditions can shift from safe to hazardous in seconds. And that brings us to understanding how to judge when the surface is still trustworthy. Knowing when winter roads are rideable. winter roads hide their intentions. What appears dry can be coated in a thin layer of frozen moisture. What feels stable under one wheel can change under the next. Dry cold is usually straightforward because grip remains predictable as long as the surface stays clean. But once moisture enters the picture, the margin for error shrinks quickly. Slush forms when temperatures hover around freezing, and it behaves inconsistently. It can feel solid in one moment and wash the front end in the next. Recognizing that inconsistency is essential because slush rarely offers the same feedback twice. Black ice is winter's most dangerous threat, forming as a thin, nearly invisible glaze that offers no grip and allows little chance of recovery. Packed snow behaves differently, compressing into a slick but more predictable surface that speaks through vibration and sound. The real skill lies in reading transitions, changes in texture, color, and shine. Decisions should rely not on temperature, but on interpreting how each surface behaves beneath the wheels. With these principles in place, riders gain a clearer understanding of how winter shapes the road. And with each factor brought into focus, the foundation is laid for the broader truth behind winter riding, which the final section will explore. Why riders rarely consider the right winter bike. Riding culture shapes choices long before logic ever enters the conversation. For decades, many riders built their identity around a particular style of machine, especially cruisers and large touring bikes. These machines carried a sense of tradition, belonging, and pride. That attachment ran deep, and once someone aligned themselves with a certain look and sound, it became difficult to see beyond it. Winter riding was often viewed through that same narrow lens. If a rider did not picture themselves on a machine with a tall stance, long suspension, or narrow frame, the idea of choosing a more winter-ready design never surfaced. The decision was emotional before it was practical. Brand loyalty kept many riders tied to familiar styles, even when winter made those choices difficult. Discomfort was treated as tradition, not a solvable problem. Few considered that another type of machine could offer safer, more controlled cold weather riding. That mindset left an entire category ignored, even by riders facing harsh seasons every year. As the years passed, these habits became tradition. Riders compared stories of winter rides fought with stubborn determination, rather than asking whether a different type of machine could have made the journey easier. But traditions eventually faced new realities, and those realities set the stage for the industry to respond. As long-held habits get challenged, the industry quietly positions itself to meet a different kind of rider. Industry shifts. Manufacturers do not move on impulse. They watch patterns, track sales, and study where riders place their money. Over the last several years, a subtle shift has taken place. More riders began stretching their seasons longer, looking for machines that could handle more than smooth pavement under clear skies. This change did not happen loudly, but the companies noticed. The demand for motorcycles that could perform throughout the year started rising, and production strategies adapted to match it. A steady shift pushed manufacturers toward designs built for varied conditions. They expanded models, offering better control on imperfect surfaces and greater all-season confidence, without branding them as winter bikes. Riders embraced the practicality, choosing machines that served more months of the year. This change redirected development budgets and engineering priorities towards stability, adaptability, and broader real-world capability. Even riders who once resisted change started to notice. When a style of machine remains in production and gains new variations year after year, it becomes clear the industry sees long-term value in it. And while companies refine their lineup, the larger world outside the showroom continues to change as well. Those changes are not driven by preference, but by conditions that shift in ways no rider can control. That reality brings us into the broader environment shaping modern riding. The global riding environment. The riding environment has grown more unpredictable over the past several years. Winters start earlier or later than expected, temperatures swing rapidly, and storms shift routes with little warning. These changes affect riders in ways that go beyond clothing choices or daily planning. Roads take more damage from freeze and thaw cycles, leaving cracks, heaves, and uneven surfaces that linger long after the season changes. In many areas, maintenance crews struggle to keep up, allowing those imperfections to accumulate year after year. Winter riding is shaped as much by crumbling infrastructure as by temperature. Potholes spread, shoulders break down, and once predictable surfaces demand constant attention. Riders extending their season now face roads that change character overnight, even in mild regions. Sudden cold snaps amplify risk, making versatility essential. A motorcycle that absorbs irregularities, stays composed on uncertain surfaces, and maintains control across shifting conditions becomes less a preference and more a necessity. With the environment evolving in ways that challenge older expectations, riders start to look differently at what makes a machine reliable. And as this understanding grows, the reasons behind one model's growing reputation become clearer. That clarity sets the stage for a final reflection on why a particular design rises above the rest. Why the Tiger 900 ends up the Winter King. When all these elements come together, a pattern emerges. Winter riding demands a motorcycle that carries the right balance of stability, shaping, and adaptability. It requires a machine that stays composed on uneven surfaces, reduces cold exposure through smart design, and accepts structural additions without compromising its core strength. Few motorcycles bring all these qualities together in a cohesive package. But the Triumph Tiger 900 does. It earns its place not through marketing or trend, but through a combination of traits that answer every challenge winter presents. The chassis remains predictable when surfaces turn unpredictable. The shaping channels air in a way that reduces fatigue across long, cold stretches. The modular build allows riders to refine the machine without fighting the frame. Each part supports the next, creating a full system that works naturally in harsh conditions. That harmony is rare, and winter exposes the strengths of machines that have it while revealing the weaknesses of those that do not. Riders learn the difference through experience. A bike that once felt adequate grows strained as winter roughens the road, while a machine built with wider capability proves its worth mile after mile. As culture and conditions evolve, the Tiger 900 emerges as the clear answer to winter's demands, steady, capable, and uncompromised. So that's why one motorcycle design quietly dominates winter, while others struggle. Now it's your turn. What bike surprised you in the cold, good or bad? Share your winter setup or story in the comments. Riders learn from each other. And if you got value from this breakdown, go ahead and like the video, subscribe, and stick around.